Did you think you were a little bit crazy at the time, spending that much money on a team?
No, I didn't think I was crazy. Now I know I was crazy. What am I going to do for fun the rest of my life? I don't like playing golf. There are only so many museums I want to go to with my wife. What am I going to do for fun? And I said, I'm going to buy a hockey team. The next day, I did what anybody would do under the circumstances. You Google. 8 months later, I owned the Tampa Bay Lightning. If I knew then what I know now, I never would have bought the team because it was a heavy lift to turn around. Probably had about a 10% chance. We realized we had to build a lot at once to create the critical mass to be successful, which very few do in commercial real estate because it's so risky. And if you build it, they will come. Well, what if they don't come? But Cascade and I, we had the balance sheets to be able to fortunately take that kind of risk.
Partnering with Cascade, were they like the experience?
No. They actually, this is the only commercial real estate development they've ever done, and they saw the potential in Tampa just like I did.
Jeff Vinik, nice to meet you.
You too.
Thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, Garrett.
This is episode 100 of the TBD Pod. Today, like I said, Jeff Vinik is here. Jeff, I want to start out with your origin story on Tampa, maybe a little bit before Tampa. So what did you do in your professional life that led you to be able to buy the Lightning and do what you've done here?
Yeah, I was first a mutual fund manager. I invested other people's money in the stock market at Fidelity Investments. For about 10 years I was there, and then I formed my own hedge fund, and I was still investing other people's money in the stock market, but I had broader latitude to take invest in other instruments also, not just stocks. To go short stocks, bet on the downside, et cetera. So it's crazy, honestly, the economic model of the hedge fund industry, where you get 2% of the total assets under management as a fee, and you get 20% of the profits that you produce of your investors' money as incentive that comes to you. Long story short, I was very fortunate to be reasonably good at that at a time when the market was really hot, at a time when hedge funds were really hot. And again, very fortunate to be able to amass the money to buy the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Amazing, right? And I'm sure there's timing and skill that both comes into that.
And luck. There's a lot of luck with anything. I mean, the Tampa Bay Lightning, we had an incredible draft in 2000. It's either 12 or 13. We don't have that draft, and we're nothing like we are right now.
Right.
And going back to the stock market, it was when I had the hedge fund, it was from like 1996 to 2010, a very strong year for the market. A couple of major declines in the middle of it, which I was able to avoid. I'm pretty good at that. But it was a great period for the market, a great period for hedge funds. So,
how did all that end up in the 2008 collapse? I mean, you just said you're pretty good at hedging against. Did you see it coming in a sort of way?
Yeah, the 2008 was an interesting period, and I can't say I saw it coming. I can't say I predicted it. If I were so smart, I would have made a ton of money betting on the downside in the market. I did see things I didn't like, so I was out of the market for that period of time. So my opinion on the stock market, and I know we're not here to talk about that, is, when the market's going up, you want to have the accelerator down and make a good amount of money. When the market's going down, you don't want to try, the hedge fund, you don't want to try to make money on the downside. That's too hard. But you just want to kind of step aside and not lose too much in the down. Make money in the bull markets and not lose too much in the bear markets.
Place your bets, so to speak, and let the market and the timing do its thing.
I don't like the word bets because I like to think that there's more skill to it than betting.
Sure.
I guess there's skill to some forms of betting. But yeah, just try to be well positioned depending on what period of time you're in and what type of market you're in.
See, I'm just a full-blown real estate guy, so for me, it's so unfamiliar. That's the way I look at it, But we're not here to talk about stocks, but I do think it's important because it gives you the context to be able to do what you've done here in Tampa. Yeah. So you had this awesome career, right, in stocks, and were you thinking about retiring and just putting your feet up, or where did the motivation come from to buy a team?
Good question. I'm, again, very fortunate to have had the financial ability to kind of reinvent myself over my life. So I was turning 50 years old, and I was with a friend, and I had already owned a small piece of the Boston Red Sox as a minority partner. I'm turning 50. I'm like, not. You feel it a little bit when you turn that age. I feel it more when you turn 60, by the way. You will all get there. And I was with a friend, Saugus Arena in Saugus, Massachusetts. It was the Jingle Ball. And My daughter was down on the floor with a friend of hers. My friend was with me. We were having some wine on the concourse level because we weren't on the floor. And my friend's name was Mark, so we'll call him Mark here in this story. And I said, "Hey, Mark, what am I going to do for fun the rest of my life? I don't like playing golf, and I haven't played a round of golf since I bought the Lightning. I don't like playing golf. There are only so many museums I want to go to with my wife. A little bit's okay, but don't want to be dragged to too many. What am I going to do for fun?" And I said, "I'm going to buy a hockey team." So literally, this was beginning of December 2008. The next day, I did what anybody would do under the circumstances. You Google how to buy a sports team, right? That's what we all would do. And it's like, one, be rich, know important people, and it goes down from there. I also bought a ton of textbooks on the business of sports to try to learn it that way. And I was on a mission from that day to buy, hockey's my favorite sport. I love hockey. I was on a mission from that day to buy a hockey team.
So you buy how to own a sports team for dummies, basically.
Basically,
and you start to just learn this process of how it works. And then, then what? You search what's available, what's for sale?
Absolutely. I went through every team, and this was, now we're getting into 2000, the downturn. So there were a lot of teams available at that time. Could have been 10 or 12 teams available. The other thing I did was, I'm from Boston. I know people in Boston. I knew all the sports teams owners. I spent 2 months just on the road meeting with sports teams owners and just asking them questions and listening, soaking it all in. And I think I've avoided some rookie mistakes when I owned the Lightning because of good guidance that I had. And then I went and it was about 4 or 5 months after the original concert. I went and had lunch with Gary Bettman, the commissioner. And, 8 months later, I owned the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Wow. So kind of pretty quick, right?
When I am going to do something, I do it.
Amazing. So when you're
Unless I don't.
Unless you don't. And then you're decisive in that way, right? Probably.
Yeah.
When you're talking with these different team owners and gathering this intelligence, so to speak, about how this can all be done, was there something you heard over and over again? Like, did they say, "Hey, watch out for this. Most people run into this mistake when they own a team"?
No, I don't. I would say that to owners now, and it's don't pick players. Let the professionals do that.
Right.
And all these new owners in any sport, they come in, they pick the players, and invariably the teams do badly.
Yep.
Don't pick the players. Let Julian Brisebois do that and his staff. One of the things was clear, though, that one of my premises, and I saw that with the Red Sox, good ownership, good management, like any business, makes a huge difference. And my premise at that time, especially, is probably 2/3 of professional sports teams did not have that. Either the owners were too involved, or they thought they were so successful in their regular business, they thought they'd be successful being CEO of the sports team. So I thought there was, if you really run a good team and have the right culture and the right values and treat people with respect, you can do really well. And I thought you can have successful, not just team on the ice, but also, organizational wise and franchise wise.
And what did you think when you saw the Lightning for sale, right? Because you mentioned there's 12 available.
Yeah.
And so what's that process like, evaluating which one to purchase?
Yeah, you start with weather, right? I knew I'd move to, my wife didn't know it at the time, but I knew I'd move to the city, or we'd move to the city where the team was, because it's a lot more fun being in the, not being an absentee owner.
I would imagine, yeah.
Go to practices, it's so much more fun. So, do you want to move to Buffalo, or do you want to move to Tampa, Florida?
Well, you can't really get colder than Boston. I guess Buffalo might be colder, but I
think Buffalo's colder.
Yeah. So did you want to move somewhere warm? Was that a consideration, like a nice little retirement city?
Yeah.
Palm trees, beaches, the whole thing.
I'm not a beach guy, but I am a nice weather guy. I mean, even now, I've been here 15 years. When I step outside and it's sunny out or something, I go, it's a beautiful day. It's so nice here.
Like today, right? Today's the perfect Florida day.
It is.
Winter day.
If I didn't have to do this damn podcast, it'd be awesome.
Well, hey, I appreciate you being here.
I'm just joking.
I know
I'm
you're
happy.
Missing the weather outside.
Hey, you're honoring me with number 100. I appreciate that.
There you go. So you find the Lightning, right? It's checking the boxes. Florida, good weather. It's available. Was there consideration about price? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it matters. And if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but 15 years ago, the Lightning were in terrible shape here, and they were basically bankrupt. And honestly, a lot of people looked at the team. If I knew, let me see if I can say this correctly. If I knew then what I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, I never would have bought the team because it was a heavy lift to turn around. Probably had about a 10% chance. Honestly, if I didn't hire Todd Lywicki as my first CEO and Steve Yzerman as my first general manager on hockey, the team wouldn't be here. Just wouldn't have been here. So going back to your question, the price was low because the team was almost broke, and we were talking 2009 at the time,
Right.
which is in your terrible recession, and the previous owners were kind of hemorrhaging cash, and they just wanted out. So I was able to buy the team for, in retrospect, a really low amount of money, and it's been, it's in the neighborhood of $100 million, which is, even back then, was low for a team. Now the prices have gone through the roof.
But at the time, like you said, no one really wanted it. I remember in like the 2010-11 season, tickets were like $20, $15. I mean, you could get, they couldn't give them away.
Exactly. And how do you get season ticket members if they know they can just get them for free on game day? So you couldn't sell any season tickets. You have to develop credibility. I'm not getting the right word, but you have to have people understand there's value to season tickets. And even if it means the building's half empty, which it was in the beginning, not discount them like crazy, because otherwise you'll never sell a season ticket. And then we eventually filled up. But I want to mention one other point. I gave you a ballpark for the purchase price of the team. We were losing tens of millions of dollars back then, year after year. We put $75 million of my money into the building, and we had to buy out Vinny Lecavallier's contract, which is expensive. So even though I bought the team for a low price, what some people don't realize is I put pretty much triple that in cash to get it to break even to where it's become profitable the last 8 or 10 years. Wow.
So did you almost look at it from your like a market guy, a stock guy perspective, where it's like a value add play, right? You buy a team, maybe you see what needs to be done, you see what value needs to be added. Sounds like you almost put what you bought the team for into the team almost immediately between these.
Well, we're losing money. Somebody's got to fund it.
Right.
I just adopted that. And then the building made a decision. We have to make the arena look really nice if fans are going to have a great experience here. And we had to make some decisions that were expensive on the team. But, I bought I didn't, my goals, and still are, frankly, with owning the team, were 1, to break even plus or minus, and we were losing a lot of money, so it took a while to get there.
Yeah.
Was 2, to make a difference in the community, and 3, to be a team that can compete for the Stanley Cup year in, year out. Probably should have put it in the other order, but I haven't said that in a long time, so I forgot it, and it just came out that way. But And I kind of believe that today is, try to break even, make a little bit of money, and, do good in the community, and let's win.
Well,
let's win. Let's do everything we can to win.
You get high marks in all 3. I mean, you've done an awesome job in every aspect of that.
I get high marks. I will give I will give myself high marks for hiring really good people who put in place everything that we were talking about in the vision, and they've done a great job. I will accept credit for that, but a lot of other stuff, that good stuff that's gone on, it's 3% of it, and 1,000 other people are 97% of it.
There's so many other people and everything you've done here in Tampa. The last episode we did was with Jim Schimberg.
Oh.
So City of Tampa, former attorney. He was the attorney for the Lightning and SPP. And we just talked a little bit about the team structure and how many people are involved at the Lightning and your sports group and the arena itself, and then Water Street. It's like there's so many people involved in these different things. You can't do anything without a great team. Sounds like that's the best thing you've done, is get good people all on one ship.
I've learned that I'm actually good at hiring really good people for top level positions. I went to a Harvard Business School, and what I learned at Harvard Business School was pay the most money for the best person. And what happens is the best person, when they started, I gave Todd Lywicki 10% of the Lightning. He wouldn't have come otherwise, and the Tampa Bay Lightning wouldn't be here if I hadn't done that to him. Steve Griggs has some equity in the Lightning too. Even though the best people, let's say the best person costs 50% more than the second best person, they're 10 times as good. It's a very steep curve, how good they are versus what they create, the value they create. So I shouldn't say always, and this gets me in trouble sometimes because everybody wants raises. I always pay the most for the best person. That's part of my strategy.
How did you know? I mean, we could probably go on all day about this specific thing, but how do you know who is the best, right? Like,
Well, they tell me.
they're that confident.
It's a lot of little things, of course. It's obviously checking reference. It's obviously spending time with them. I take them to lunch. This is senior level people. I take them to lunch with their wives, see how they treat their wives, see how they treat the server. That's a big one. If they're barking at the server, that's not, the server is, I respect that server every bit as much as I respect anybody else, and including myself. So if you can't be nice to the server, you're not going to be nice to your employee. You're not a guy we want. So that's one of the things that I do. Checking a lot of references from every which way. And I'm thinking about Todd. He had so many references, and I met him, and he's a spectacular human being, and you know it right away. Really easy. Steve Yzerman as general manager is really easy too. Just exceptional people with exceptional reputations. Both of those, the first time I met them, it's like, I'm going to do everything I can to hire them.
Wow.
Steve Griggs also, I didn't hire him because Todd brought him in, but he is exceptional too, and as a person. These new owners I bought in, I know we're jumping around here, they're of the same ilk. I've been saying they're really good people. They're going to fit in well. They have the same DNA, the same, emphasis on culture. You see it in the company that they run, Blue Owl. They're exceptional. And it was the same thing. I've had several meals with them, with their wives. I got in restaurants. I've seen them in different circumstances, and they're nobody knows it now, but 10 years from now, when they're probably at that point more involved than I am, people really get to know them around here. They're going to give me credit for bringing them in. And as I get less involved, people are going to really appreciate them. They're awesome.
Well, I'm glad you picked a good, almost like a hand the baton off type thing. It sounds like you're going to be doing less and less with this over the years, but that's kind of the natural progression of these things, right?
It can be. I mean, I'm in the process of getting divorced, and so I'm kind of like, I've told you, I've been able to reinvent myself.
Yeah.
I'm reinventing myself right now, and the divorce for me, I wasn't going to talk about this, but I will. The divorce for me was about freedom, actually.
Sure.
Penny, my wife, because she's still my wife for another month, great woman. I have nothing negative to say. I had a great life, but it was like so predictable, and it was just, there were no ups and downs in life. It was just, I mean, if you're risk averse like she was, it was awesome. If you're a risk taker like me, it's like, I can't live 20 more years like this. I explained it to her. She understood. And so I'm reinventing myself and trying to reduce the amount of obligations or not even obligations, things that I'm involved with, just say it simply, like the real estate I got out of. And the Lightning, interesting, with these partners, I can stay really involved for as long as I want, or I can let them take over and be less involved. I can't tell you. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where I'm going to spend the month of January. I mean, I have this freedom. Same thing with the team. I don't know how involved I'm going to be going forward. And
how exciting, though.
It is. Well, that's why I'm excited for my life right now, not to talk too much about myself personally.
No. That's why you're here. We're here to talk about you and what you've done here in Tampa. You've done incredible things. So this is great. On the business side of it, though, because you were a business guy, right? You're in the stock market. There's the allure of owning a sports team because it's fun and you're the owner and you're in the community, all this cool stuff. Did the business side of it fascinate you? Because you're talking about hiring people, you're talking about making an investment into the team, all this stuff.
So I hope the value would go up over time, but I did not buy the Lightning to make money. I mean, I have, so I've been very fortunate, and the value of all sports teams have gone way up. I bought it for fun, and I bought it to try to win hockey games. I love going to hockey games. I don't let it, if anybody's in my suite, I don't let them talk during the game. So I don't like to enter. Seriously, Buckhorn came in once and put tape over his mouth so that he didn't speak. It's a true story. And I want to watch the game. That's the most fun for me. I don't like to entertain because then I have to worry. I have to, like, I'm a people pleaser. So then
how's
I have to
the
worry.
food? You don't want to do that.
Then I have to worry, are they having a good time or not? And then I got to talk to them. It's like, I just want to focus on the game, the business side. So it wasn't really about making money for me. I hope the value would go up over time. It was about for the love of it. but you are combining two of my favorite passions in life, which is sports, specifically hockey, and business. And that combination is pretty awesome. And, I got involved in the NHL. I'm on the executive committee, so we deal with some important issues for the sport and all. So it's I would call it fun. That has worked out very well.
Hockey has been kept so pure, I think.
Yeah.
If you look at the NFL and the changes over the decades and even over the last 5-8 years, and then you look at hockey with the fighting and the energy and the tenacity that the players can still express while other sports have toned down, that's why people love hockey. It's just the pure game on the ice.
And the best team coming into the season, if they don't give an effort, they're not going to, in basketball, coming into the season, you can name 12 of the 16 teams that are going to make the playoffs. Unless they have some catastrophic injury, the Celtics are going to be one of the best teams, right? In hockey, Edmonton went to the final last year. They're out of a playoff spot right now. In hockey, you got to play hard every night. So that's why it's so balanced, especially on a game by game basis. Anybody can win. It's definitely the secret sauce of the NHL is the competitive balance, how even it is.
Mm-hmm. Anything can happen. And the games are so dynamic too. I actually play in an adult hockey league. I started only a few years ago. So I'm from Florida. I never grew up ice skating. I didn't even know how to ice skate.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine from Maine plays up at Advent Health Center Ice, that awesome, newer iceplex up there in Wesley Chapel.
Yeah.
He's like, hey man, come out, check out hockey. I'm like, I've never played hockey. I don't really know what the deal is. I'm like, I'm going to break my leg. It's a bad idea. I eventually go out, start playing, fall in love immediately. First of all, the prerequisite to have to ice skate to play the sport makes it super competitive and challenging for me. And I've been playing it for 4 years now and love it. Hockey is amazing. And then at the same time, the Lightning are doing great, and that's fun to watch. It's like Florida growing up in the 90s, we had the Bucks, then you had the Magic and the Rays, and that was kind of what was going on. And because the weather doesn't support it, people really didn't necessarily care about hockey back then.
Right.
Now, it's our biggest sport. It truthfully is in the city. People love the Lightning. They love watching it. I love playing it. You should see this rink up there. I don't know if you visited.
I know. Oh, sure.
Thousands of people enjoy it. I think you could build another one closer to the city and it would still be popular. It's amazing how it's shifted. Maybe because all the people from the Northeast moved down here and they're like, we want hockey in Florida.
To some extent, yes. This is like 10 years ago. We were the second favorite team of like 40% of our fans or something because they came from someplace else. We haven't done that survey since then. We should do it again and find out what it is.
It'd be interesting.
Because I want to find. I hope it's gone down because my job was to make us the favorite team of all of them. Another point you were saying, interesting. You're in Florida and you've learned to play hockey. I came from New Jersey, New York, New England area. Can't skate. Obviously, can't play hockey if I can't skate. But I used to play ball hockey in high school and. I loved it.
Yeah, hockey. It's so cool. I've never done roller or like field hockey or anything like that, but I would imagine ice is the most fast-paced and aggressive and dynamic. Yeah. So it almost sounds like when you're evaluating these teams, Tampa really shined for you. This one team in particular.
Yep.
You make the decision to buy the team. Where does how many acres is Water Street? 40 or 50 acres, right?
Yeah. I can't even remember anymore, but in that range, yes.
But certainly an exceptional amount of available open real estate right next to the arena. Where does that come into the picture for you?
Yeah. So when I bought the team, I recognized that there was a lot of downtown land, just as you said, surface parking lots that could become something someday. And I thought that would be good when they became something someday. But I didn't have any thought about buying the land or developing it or anything like that. And then again, we're in this is like a depression that Tampa Bay and Tampa went through back then because of real estate. The land, to be able to purchase it was at really cheap prices, and all of it we did it through a bunch of different companies, so people didn't know it was us. And it was sleepy back then here. It was sleepy back then in Tampa. Mm-hmm. People didn't even know we were doing. We were able to accumulate all of it with nobody even knowing. And really 30, 40 cents on the dollar for what it really was worth. And again, didn't know what we do with it, but it's like, well, it's right across the street from the arena. I might as well buy it. Well, it's right next to that plot. I might as well buy it. And then we just kept growing. And then we realized we've purchased all this land. What are we going to do with it? And again, I went back to the textbooks and talking to people and learning, and decided and formed a partnership with Cascade, Michael Larson at Cascade, Bill Gates' company. Decided that, you know what, we could build not a sports like development area, but I can't even think of the term. But
well, like LA Live, right?
No, not like a real downtown, not an LA Live.
That's what I'm
not
saying.
Not an entertainment.
Not, right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Not an entertainment district. And when people call it an entertainment district, I said, you're not getting the point. But I say it nicer than I was to Christine earlier. I barked at her earlier, which I never do.
Uh-oh.
So there. Now I'm a nasty person. So, what was I talking about?
Well, we were talking about you seeing all this available real estate.
Oh, yeah, I did.
And not really necessarily having a vision. You must have thought like, boy, wouldn't it be cool to do X, Y, Z? Of course. Or were you literally just like, well, I might as well buy that. It's right there.
Exactly. That's what I was. I might as well buy that.
wild.
It's right there. Maybe I'll do something with it someday. It's certainly going to go up in value. Like commercial real estate development, I've never done commercial real estate development. I hope I never do commercial real estate development again. It is hard and it is stressful, and things go, putting out fires all the time. And the people who are in it are there a lot of creatives in it. So the wacky people, really talented people. Mm-hmm. It's a great experience to have. But after about 2 years of accumulating the land and all, and reading and learning, I thought about downtown Tampa, and it's like, there's nothing downtown going on really, and there's no gathering spot in this town. There really isn't. International Plaza, I don't know if that counts. And it's like, this is a region of several million people, and there's no gathering spot downtown. This could work, and it just developed. Originally, it was going to be $1 billion, and then it ended up at over $2 billion.
So partnering with Cascade, were they like the experience? Like
No. This is the only commercial real estate development they've ever done. But they wanted to learn the business and get in the business, and they saw the potential in Tampa just like I did. But no, they invest in real estate, but that's very different than developing real estate.
Got it. So they came with some capital and a little bit of maybe underwriting value.
Yeah, no doubt. And credibility also, because usually people announce big real estate developments, they don't do it, and everybody says, oh.
Well, the headlines here in Tampa are like Bill Gates, right? That name was thrown around a lot.
It helps.
Right.
It helps, again, credibility-wise, and it helps pocket. I couldn't have afforded to do it all myself. That was just too big.
Ooh, what was the initial? Well, first, can we talk about the first few pieces of property you bought? Because it's funny you mentioned that at the time, no one knew who was buying these properties.
Yeah.
Again, Jim Schimberg at the time was the city attorney.
Yeah.
When the Republican National Convention was in Tampa, the city had to have a staging place for the police and all the various things. So they found a property. I think it's the one across the arena. I think it was that piece or the one to the west of that, which is
that's where it was.
So directly across from the arena. He's like, we're looking up the tax rolls. We find some guy in Colorado. We contact him, and then we find out it's you.
Yeah.
Right. And then they start to put the pieces together. It's so fascinating that no one knew. It just shows you how non-competitive that real estate market was.
It was just, I don't even know if they even hit the papers that, we're buying this. Non-competitive, and just, at that time, this region was depressed, if you just think of it. And it was so beaten down by, remember, this was the worst economy here since the Great Depression. It was terrible. And fortunately, we're not going to have another recession like that here for a long, long time. You can have a slowdown, but so I think it was just people were beaten down. It's like,
you could say this was the epicenter too.
Yeah, you could. I mean, there were a few. Naples was an epicenter.
Florida,
Phoenix was
an
epicenter.
Yeah.
But Florida, was the worst of it, no doubt about it. So people weren't looking for opportunity. They were just like, didn't want to take any risks, so nobody even cared.
Wow. So you're buying these properties at probably unbelievable discounts. Do you remember the price of the first one? Today's episode is possible in part to our exclusive partnership with Chansey Architecture, Interior Design, and Development. Rooted in the heart of Ybor City for over 35 years, Walt Chansey and his team are trailblazers in architecture and interior design. In addition to their work throughout the United States and the Bahamas, Chansey has shaped some of the most iconic residential and commercial spaces that now stand as gateways to Cigar City, like Casa Marti and Casa Gomez. What makes Chansey Design unique is their ability to preserve the soul and character of historic heritage buildings while layering in modern design and functionality. They seamlessly blend tradition with innovation, creating spaces that honor the past and meet the needs of today. Please check out their work at www.chanseydesign.com. I mean, it's so discounted that some people that have moved here in the last 5 years might not believe it.
It might be up 10 times in value right now from what it was back then, just as raw land. Yes, I would say. But it was, I think, the first parcel was pretty much right across the street from the arena. And then we went out from there, just kind of went in every direction from there. And we're able to, there's one little piece we don't own, but otherwise we've been able to accumulate all of it.
So you accumulate this land, you're building up the Lightning, you're investing into the team, you're becoming, you move here, you're becoming a part of the community. When does it shift to partnering with Cascade and, hey, let's really figure something special out? Because when you acquire the land and partner with Cascade, the money portion is solved. The ownership of the real estate question is solved. Now the thought process was probably, what do we do with it, right?
Yeah. Well, even before Cascade, we were thinking about what we were doing with it, because in the beginning it was small enough that I could have done it all myself, but then our ambitions grew and grew and grew. We realized we had to build a lot at once to create the critical mass to be successful.
Right.
Which nobody, very few do in commercial real estate, because it's so risky. And so if you build it, they will come. Well, what if they don't come? But Cascade and I, we had the balance sheets to be able to, fortunately, take that kind of risk. We had so much confidence in this region and that they would come, the people would come.
What gave you that confidence? Why did you think that?
Maybe the same confidence I had by the team. Maybe it's just that I'm an optimistic person.
Yeah.
I believed excellence wasn't being served here, and if we created an excellent product, enough of the market would appreciate it and would pay higher prices for it. That's kind of our strategy. We are priced. Our office rents are higher. Our hotel room rates are higher. Our residential rates are high. I shouldn't say "are." I'm not in it anymore. They're significantly higher, but the experience you have and the quality of the construction and the service levels are also significantly higher. And we did market studies, of course, and how much money there is around here and the number of people moving here. And then we thought it could become a self-fulfilling prophecy that becomes a good place to live and more people want to move here and it builds on itself. It's the joke. It's almost like we had a plan. We did have a plan. I can't say I was, we were confident it would work. We weren't sure it would work. And you can take that, what is it? Big, audacious, hairy, something or other. It's a big, bold, fun thing to do. And that's like, I apparently get a kick out of doing big, fun things. Apparently. And like a cool thing to try to have an effect on a city. And, we did it. And both in my case and Cascade's case, obviously, I knew if this thing were a failure, it's not going to bankrupt me and it's not going to bankrupt them. It would just be a large bad investment, but bad investment nonetheless.
Coming from a kid who was born here and whose family's been here a long time, there really is like a pre and post Water Street era of Tampa. And maybe that coincides with the COVID migration and Tom Brady coming here. There's a lot of there's a lot of things that happened during the COVID era, and we can dig into that. I think that's important, but so much was happening at one time. So much spotlight was on Tampa. That really insulated you guys from a risk perspective. Like, had COVID not happened and you had this mass migration to Tampa, who knows how the whole thing would have filled up.
Sorry, I don't agree.
Okay.
COVID accelerated it a little bit, but it's not, there were people moving to Tampa before. It's a great place to live. People were moving. COVID had accelerated a bit Tom Brady definitely helped because we're on TV every Sunday and people are seeing Tampa and then the Super Bowl and all that.
And your boat
That-
parades too.
And that all
All of
helps.
it.
But Brady's bigger than our boat parades.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great break. But I'm sure we would have been successful whether we had COVID or not. Or I mean, COVID cost us a lot of money too, and cost the Lightning a lot of money too.
I just meant it probably shifted your projections
Sorry.
a lot further, certainly. That was my point, right? I'm not saying it's because of COVID. I'm saying COVID kind of poured a little gasoline on your numbers.
Not
and
that
made it,
much. No.
Really?
I think if you look at if you count the number of people who moved here, maybe it went like that, and then it's gone back like that. It's not that significant, I don't think.
Interesting. We've had, obviously, so the show's called Tampa Bay Developer. We've spoke with different people in government and other smaller developers, and we've talked about the COVID period as this huge event. It's fascinating to me that you really don't see it like that. And you're looking at the numbers, so
Yeah.
well, I'm just kind of guessing here, but
I don't see it like that.
Interesting.
Maybe it accelerated us a year or two.
yeah.
But the destiny for Tampa and Tampa Bay is strong growth, more people moving here. It's not because of COVID. COVID just helped a little bit.
Yeah.
But the fundamentals were in place for us to do well and still are.
The most important thing probably is the exceptional finishes you put, right? Everything at Water Street is above and beyond the standard commercial development.
Yeah.
The wide streets, the brick, the mature trees, the intricate architecture. Like, I think
Thank you.
because all of that was never seen before, that kind of if you build it, they will come mentality actually worked. People came here and thought, boy, this is nice. This beats anything I've seen.
And
I
by
want
the-
to lease here.
That's exactly, even though it's 75%, even though it's $60 a foot for commercial versus 35 downtown,
Yeah.
I want to be in this environment. And by the way, I think with the Lightning also, we introduced excellence to a region that didn't quite know what excellence was at the time. And now it does, because now there are a lot of excellence, a lot of people creating excellence. But at the time, again, was a little downtrodden and depressed. And, that was kind of, with the Lightning to some extent, now, certainly with the development, it was, if you build it, let's build something excellent and hope people come. It worked, it has, and then hopefully it keeps working. With the Lightning, our fans, like, we got there and we asked the fans, you do surveys and all, and they were happy and thought it was great and all this stuff, but they didn't know. They didn't know what they didn't know, and then we elevated the experience, and then we've been able to create a lot of stickiness with our fans.
So early on, you guys put out these master plan renderings, and it was probably 60% more than what's currently there past this first phase. It was certainly, it goes up to the old mill site, right? And then I know you own some property, or you used to own some property across the expressway, right?
We still do.
We
Yes.
still do. Okay. So
Parking lot on that map.
So the master plan was developed first before you guys decided, hey, what should we build first? What is going to be like the catalyst to future phases? And I'm sure you thought about, what's a high value I could bring the arena? Because Dave Bevert was on the show when he was at SPP, and he was talking about Amalie Arena is like number 3 in the nation for concerts, for sporting events, for all this stuff. I'm sure you guys thought about, hey, let's just drive more traffic to the arena. Let's get Taylor Swift in here.
No doubt the arena helps the district, and the district helps the arena. No question about that. There's so many things I could talk about in what you just said.
Yeah.
The arena is great to have. By the way, the arena is dark 150, 200 nights a year. That means that whole side of the street is dark, and that is not the recipe for great urban developments. You want both sides of the street to be activated. So arenas are double-edged coin. Double-edged coin, is that the right expression? Works both ways.
Yeah.
So it works both ways. We knew, when we showed the development, first of all, which master plan? There were like 3 or 4 master plans, because we got smarter and better. We had 3 different master planners. We hired different people along the way to keep improving it. We showed the whole district at build out, which is like $6 billion, to show the vision of what this eventually could become. As time went on, we figured out what we were going to do in phase 1, which was close to the arena, because you didn't want to have buildings like all over the place. You want to have, again, compactness, critical mass, and that's how it's evolved into what it is now. And as I say, the next phase is basically taking everything we have and doing it again. Multiply it by
Yeah.
2, and that will be done. Cascade wants to do it, and maybe the new owners are also want to get involved with that, which would be nice, bringing new blood in. So there's a lot more to come to finish off the vision that you saw in that master plan,
For sure.
which was much more expansive than what we have now.
Could you pull up, David, the just Water Street Tampa website? Because I'm sure it's on there. But yeah, right. Like these 2 blocks, really 3 blocks, right? Because you have Heron is on its own block with the Publix. Then you have 1001 on the northeastern block. Northwest has Asher and the Addition, right? So it's 3 blocks, I guess you could say, that were completed in phase 1.
Oh, I'd say more than that. Remember JW Marriott? You can call that a block.
Oh, I guess I'm focused on that one little area. But yeah, JW of Sparkman Wharf was a part of that.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So the blocks you're referring to, it's correct, but each are double blocks. Each are twice. So you can say 3 blocks, you could say 6 blocks, depending on how you want to look at it. Because
Depends on the measuring stick. Right.
Exactly. Because remember, often blocks have just one building on them. Our blocks have 4 buildings on them each because they're big. These are big urban blocks.
It's interesting you brought up activating the arena and then the decision to make it as dense as it was. And now, obviously, again, right, it's your team. You've probably hired the best people in the country. We had on Jeff Speck, too, who is a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
His theories and philosophies, almost from like a cultural, from a human being perspective of how cities should operate, I thought was a great conversation. How much did that play a role in
He was huge.
Yeah.
Reading his book, which is only like 150 pages or something. Basically, his book is do squares. Do everything in like organized squares, have stuff on both sides of the street, slow down the traffic, have outdoor cafes, have green. That was the turning point for, we brought him in then. He was either our second or third master planner. But that's where the light bulb went on. And it's like, this is it. We're going to do a grid pattern. Wow. That's how great cities are.
So that book was very significant.
The most significant thing that I read, and then obviously work with them. As soon as I read it, I call them.
For people listening, fantastic book.
It is.
And you know, what's interesting about that book is as you go through it, in your head, you go, that's what I like about a city. Duh. It's kind of like an obvious point, really.
It's one of those things. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah,
when you see
totally.
It obviously good. But I'd read other books and nothing hit home like that one with the obviousness of it. It's so obvious though when, like, let's say you read 10 books and 9 of them are like, that's pretty good. I like it. You read his book and it's like, of course that's the answer. Mm-hmm. It's just you have to read 9 other books to get to the 10th book because you don't know which is going to be the good book ahead of time.
So in the same way, before you bought the Lightning, you're doing all of this research and due diligence and talking with people. I'm assuming you did the same thing with this real estate development.
Yeah, I kind of like to do that. I like to figure out big projects and then learn everything I can about it. And the Innovation Hub in Bark Collective we set up was the same thing. Spent 2 years traveling the country, talking to people who were in the startup business and startup hubs and incubators, accelerators, to learn everything we can. Then hired a great person in Lakshmi Shenoy, and she got this thing going. And I think it's moving the needle on the entrepreneurship in Tampa Bay.
It's fantastic. So you have this master plan. You're reading the book, right? You certainly probably had a million different directions, but you guys dialed in what exactly you wanted. And now people are enjoying phase 1 currently. The restaurants are full. People are walking their dogs and tourists love it. The trolley's packed. It worked. It worked. People love it. People enjoy it. If anything, it was a really, I think, interesting experiment or a proof of concept for future developments, not only here in Tampa, but across the country. I think there's this growing push for the new American urban core, the new American downtown.
I agree. It's not so easy. I mean, it's not easy to buy up this many acres with nobody, and being able to accumulate that to be able to do this kind of development. It's really hard. I guess Hudson Yards in New York related was able to do that. So that's New York City, and they were able to do it, but it was a quiet area. So it's challenging. And the other thing, again, Tampa did not have, like, there was no other development like this in Tampa. So Hyde Park was becoming was being finished and starting to do really well as we were developing. So that became a great area to congregate, but not that many. Plus, we're on the water. You can walk along the water. We're in Florida. We probably should be able to walk along the water.
Yeah, it's funny they even built the original channel side where Sparkman Wharf is to close off that water. That was a fantastic idea, opening that up and seeing that beautiful bay.
Yeah, it's hard, but the cruise ships are there some, but still, yeah, the idea was to open it up.
I think the cruise ships are kind of interesting when they're right in front. It's like, whoa, look at that thing. It's huge. It's
we say that too because we couldn't get rid of them. So we said, yeah, they're interesting. Let's
I
make
guess
them
we're stuck with them.
No, let's make them a part of it, and
Right.
Let's embrace them.
And all kind of art installation, so to speak, I guess.
It works.
So it's funny you mentioned Hyde Park Village too. That's Boston ownership, right?
Yes,
Aren't they out of Boston too?
I think it's Jeremy Sklar. I think that's the guy who was doing it.
Boston's influence. Boston's a fantastic city. Visited for the first time a few years ago. It's everything, and I think actually Jeff Speck is from Boston too.
Yes, he
right?
is.
Boston's, is might be the best example of a walkable urban core with plazas and parks and continuous retail and connectivity. It's a fantastic American example of an American city. Plus, it has history too, just like Tampa.
Yeah, the Back Bay area, it's maybe what you're referring to. It is a really good walkable area.
It's fantastic. So you get in this real estate space, right? You're developing the master plan. We talked about that. You start phase one before you put a shovel in the ground. You mentioned like nothing like this has been done in Tampa. What is the conversation with local government from a county and city level? Are they like, wait, you want to do what? What was their
we started
impression?
with Bob Buckhorn, and we had developed enough credibility with the Lightning by then, not what we have now, but enough that he took us seriously. And because I'm sure he or whoever we were telling back then was thinking, oh, this sounds great, but it's never going to happen. I've heard these kind of things a million times. We had enough credibility. He gave us, he and the county gave us CRA money, downtown money, and that we could use just for some of the infrastructure, for some of the street work. And frankly, we haven't even used it all. We've only used about half of it, or we. I'll keep saying we, because it was we when we were doing it. It just over time, I think we built up credibility, but still, until you actually do it and buildings are come out of the ground, and the money was, we wouldn't have gotten it if we hadn't built buildings. So the city wasn't just going to give it to us, the county. And it just built up credibility over time as we kept meeting. And obviously when Bill Gates signs up, that's a big boost to credibility. Right. The funny thing about the timing is that we started building, COVID hit, everybody's in their home for a year, everything is finished. A year later, COVID, everybody comes out of their house and the whole district's done. So it was like that, right, before COVID, after COVID, that the timing worked out that way. And honestly, because we were in Florida, we were able to build all during COVID and probably accelerated our timing because there wasn't as much competition. The roads weren't crowded to get materials in, things like that. So during COVID, it was full speed ahead.
It's kind of crazy you guys built it all in one go too. You mentioned earlier, usually in commercial, one building goes up at a time. You guys wanted to do, what was it? I think you said 6, 8.
Well, we can count them. We did Sparkman Wharf,
Sparkman, JW,
Heron,
101 Heron Edition,
1001, the building next to it. I'm going to look and count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 USF will count because that's part of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 8 buildings at one time.
At one time.
Yeah. Which was, again, I didn't know anything about commercial real estate. I didn't know how hard that was logistically to do. I can't remember the guy who we had back then. I can see him, and he's a Boston guy too. Charlie. He led the construction division and oversaw that. I mean, we have James Nozar was an MVP for the design of the district. Charlie was an MVP for just getting it all built. And those we had other MVPs. Jim Schimberg's just the general MVP, right? Well, Yeah.
The
So
logistical undertaking.
yeah,
Right.
I didn't know.
So
I just build the damn things.
yeah. We had on Scott Gilner with Kimley Horn, and I asked him specifically about that, and he was like, that has really never been done before locally, where you have this massive investment and it's not one building, right? It's eight. Was it eight?
At least,
At
depending on how you
least,
count.
depending on how you count, buildings at one time.
Yeah.
So just this massive logistical coordination with the government and with engineering. And I know people don't remember, or a lot of people have moved here since Water Street. That whole area's street grid was different. I mean, you had
Yeah.
was it Nuke's Cafe across from the arena,
Yep.
Ferg's,
Yeah.
right?
The road curved into
road
Brorine.
curved.
Yep.
I mean, so much work was done before a shovel was put in the ground.
Right.
It was probably years before you started to build those buildings.
Yes, it was. And how many times did I say, when are we going to start building the buildings?
Yeah.
Then start building, and they're under the ground for the foundation for 8 months. And it's like, when is it going to come up? When is it going to go vertical?
Where were
Not
you
very patient.
at that time? Obviously, you weren't in Water Street. Were you living close by the district?
I lived in Palmacia the whole time.
Okay, so you could just
Yeah.
pop over and check
Yeah.
on the job and see what was going on
Oh
over
yeah.
there.
of
Plus, you're
course,
right
and the
there at
hockey
the
team.
arena. Yeah.
I'm here all the time.
Wow, amazing. So it sounds like local government had a level of enthusiasm for this, but hesitation because, man, this city's seen a lot of projects fall flat just because of the timing, the recession. I mean, we've had a Trump Tower proposed. We've had all sorts of stuff proposed.
That's true with government, local and county-wise. City and county were extremely helpful. Stuck their neck out for us.
Yeah.
While there was some skepticism, there was some credibility too, real credibility. So they were fantastic and still are. So I want to be clear on that. This doesn't get done without both, all forms, the state too, all forms of government.
Just sitting here and listening to you speak and these other people I've had on the show, it sounds like an all hands on deck effort.
It was
to get this thing done.
It was. And then as it went along, more building and development started to go on in Tampa. And, like the city got overwhelmed at one point, probably right after COVID, I guess, or maybe it was before, I don't know. But, so much building was going on, which is great for the city, but the building department couldn't keep up with it. So
yeah, I think they're still overwhelmed today. There's still a lot going on. It's
which is great.
It is great. I think it's a great thing for the city. It shows finally life has been injected into our downtown. For so many years when I was growing up and when I'd visit my dad's office downtown, after 5 o'clock, people would leave.
Yeah.
And
the metamorphosis, if we can use that, of downtown, I'll go to baseball, third inning. It's not, this project can double and this all can connect together. And Ybor Darrell Shaw, he's awesome and he's doing all kinds of stuff. And all this can connect together over 30, 40, 50 years. I think, the Tampa of 2070, if it's not underwater, it won't be underwater because it's only a foot of sea level rise. Not even a foot. Tampa 2070, and we'll keep it away. Campus 2070 is going to be incredible because it's all going to connect together.
yeah, Water Street really is just a piece of the puzzle. To your point, right? It's just a piece of the puzzle.
Kind of like a catalyst or just the first shoe to drop.
Tell me about when it started to become complete and you could see all of those buildings up, topped out. What were your thoughts?
Pride.
Yeah.
Just pride, proud. It's like, wow, this is what I was hoping for. The quality of this shines through. You can tell, the trees, the brick, the streetscapes that we've created, the building materials for the buildings and all. It was just, again, exactly what we were looking for. And I was thankful too, to all the stakeholders you've talked about, and also to Cascade and to James Nozar for, my vision always was to do this with excellence, and Cascade bought in, and James was the one who was able to execute that. So there was a lot of thankfulness, because you never, I said it 8 times, I'm not a construction guy. I didn't know exactly. And then it's coming up and you don't know. And then it's like post-COVID and all, it's all there. And it's like, wow, this is what we wanted. Now I want to see it times 2 though. I want to see this continue north and go further west. It will with time.
the most beautiful thing about it is the people to me. There's the people like you go visit and they have a smile on their face. They're enjoying themselves. There was a couple. My dad is I've said this a couple of times on the show, but my dad's a little bit of a negative Nancy sometimes. Okay. He's an old retired judge, but he was walking around the Riverwalk area near Water Street, and there was a British couple walking kind of next to him. And the British couple just looked up and said, "Isn't this just lovely?" And my dad told me that story, and I thought, it really is. When you live here, you sometimes get lost in, the traffic, or you got to wait in line or whatever it may be. But when you take a step back and you look at what has happened in the city just the last decade or 2 decades, it's incredible. And it is lovely. And a day like today with the weather, it's like we're so blessed to be in this place.
Yeah, like when you say that about the British couple, it like makes my heart melt, because that's the whole idea, to elicit an emotional response. It's not just buildings, and it's not just living and working and eating. It's emotional response, attachment. That's we want to give people the experience, and also, by the way, that helps the economics work on it.
It's interesting too that the same square footage, the same size buildings, everything could have been done at a way lower level, right? When you're adding in these large brick sidewalks with these intricate water fountains, and picking architects that work in like Barcelona and places around the world. I mean, you guys went so far above and beyond that. Like you said, that excellence is the difference.
Yeah, it's like the last 5 or 10% of these small touches are what it's about. And
right.
And you know what? People don't look up that much, but they see the streetscape and all, and you've got to, the buildings are expensive, but you can't like run out of money and not do what's on the ground level. You've got to do that better than the beautiful buildings.
And how does it make you feel? Are you going and just parking and going to a restaurant? Oh, it was great, and you leave? Or is your actual experience of walking through the neighborhood a positive one? Are you inspired when you walk through? Does it make you feel good? Do you feel comfortable? Is there 6 lanes of traffic and you're scared to cross the street, or is it an easy experience? I think all of that plays in.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of thought, the width of the roads. There were a lot of battles on, we want it wider for cars, but we want it narrow to slow down the traffic and to make it more intimate feeling. You don't want highways in the middle of your district. That doesn't work.
No, we've tried that. It's called Del Mabry. It's not good at all. So what's this here? Oh, sports team giving bonuses to employees. So this was recent, right? When you, thanks for bringing that up.
Subtle hint.
Subtle hint over there by David. Yeah, I saw that in the paper, and I thought that was incredible. You did that.
I looked awful then. I like the cup, but I don't like the guy under it.
Scroll down. So you have sold a stake in the Lightning. We talked a lot about that before. And you made a decision to give bonuses to the people that helped out along the way. What was your decision process there?
Sports, athletes make a lot of money in sports, and the top executives do fine. But most people in sports, they are in sports because they love it. And it doesn't pay that well. It's hard to make the economics work and pay people really what they're worth. A lot of our employees could leave and find another job doing the same thing outside the sports industry and make 30 or 40% more. So here I had an opportunity to, give back to all the hundreds of employees who really did the work to enable me and my soon-to-be ex-wife to sell the team and be able to pull in for us a good amount of money. So it's one of the most joyous things I've done since owning the team. And because a lot of employees, probably half of Tampa Bay Lightning employees, their bonus was approximately 100% of their annual salary. And my kid can get braces. I can form a down payment on a house. I paid off my student loans. I heard those stories day after day, and it was just heartrending. Maybe that's the wrong word. Good. No, it was just heartwarming. I knew it would have an impact, and it's just. Who doesn't want to do something good? It was like really cool and really fun to be able to do something good. And as I said, my wife was part of half of that, so give her credit.
Wow. So 300 plus employees, and you said even someone making 40 or $50,000 a year, they still got a check for 50, was
It
it?
was very bottom weighted because, our top people, um, they don't need $50,000. I mean, they got a good check,
Right.
but it's not changing their lives. But the people who are making $40,000 and 45 a year who get a check for 45 or 50,000, it is changing their lives.
100%. And who does that represent? Like, would that be the people like when you go to the game and there's people helping you to your seat? Anyone?
No, it's not them.
No.
Those are part-timers,
Okay.
and we did some things for them separately, but
Okay.
we haven't publicized it. But this is the full-timers. It's the marketing staff, and it's the finance department, and it's all the operations department and all aspects of the business, and just doesn't pay that well. These are all smart, college educated, if not graduate school, generally young people who are just trying to start out in life, and it helps. It makes a difference.
That's amazing. And then from an investment perspective, like you said, you didn't go into buying the team to make any money on it, but I saw, what did it say the team was valued at? 1.8 billion?
Yeah.
You said you paid 100 million?
But I also said, which now will become public, but I don't care. I put 300 million on top of that in losses and into the building and all. So the real price was $400 million.
Still a pretty return. However,
Yep.
what a risk that was, dumping that kind of money into a team. And at the time, I mean, the country's in a recession. Like,
Effing crazy.
did you
Yeah.
think you were a little bit crazy at the time, spending that much money on a team?
No, I didn't think I was crazy. Now I know I was crazy.
It probably saved you, though.
No,
right?
I wasn't crazy. I was all in to make this thing work. And it's like, if you're going to do it, you have to do it right. You have to put money in the building. We have to fund these losses. We have to buy out a contract. We've got to do this to make it successful. If you build it, they will come. And we had a great draft. And as I said, 2012 and 2013, we ran it really well. We gave people great experience. The hockey team came along and everything went right. Who knows if the hockey team doesn't become, we've been the best team in hockey the last 10 or 12 years overall. 2 Stanley Cups, obviously, along the way. That helps. That helps a lot. And
Certainly.
I'm going to tell you something. There's a lot of luck involved there. I mean, if we were so smart with that draft I mentioned where we got 6 really important players, why haven't we been so smart every other year? Because it's hard, and it just, maybe somebody's looking down on me. I don't know.
Well, I would also imagine the competition from other teams has only increased,
Of course.
over the last decade and a half.
Yeah. And no, but when you're winning, you get the last draft pick. So we've had 10 or 12 years of not having a top 10 or 15 draft pick every year. And that's why, and the salary cap and your players get paid more. That's why it's cyclical in general, the sports business, that you can be strong for the period of time, but then you often have a down period. We're so conscious of that we brought in the guy Geeky, who's 20 years old last year, because he's young. So we're trying to do 2 things at once right now. What is it? Walk and chew gum. We're trying to win now and be good enough to win a Stanley Cup, and we do believe we have that opportunity. We're not dominant like we were a few years ago, but we think we're one of several teams that could win a Stanley Cup, while also keeping our eye on the future so we don't have a really significant down period, so we can stay a playoff team and have the opportunity to win cups.
That's like what Nick Saban would do, right? He would invest heavily in those younger guys and always try to churn those new players in to consistently have a good team over years.
But he doesn't have a salary cap to contend with. We do, and it makes it a lot trickier.
Right.
Because we just don't have, we've got a lot of our top guys tied up. We don't have enough money. And it's every team in the league has that. So it's just the fact. I mean, I'm glad we have a salary cap.
Works, yeah.
If we didn't have a salary cap, then everybody would be spending twice as much money, and the economics wouldn't work, and we'd be losing a ton of money, and it wouldn't work.
Boy, that would be kind of an interesting game to play out, where if you removed that, what do you think would happen? A bunch of owners and the teams would just write ridiculous checks for,
Toronto.
You would just buy the Stanley Cup, essentially.
Well, that's what the Los Angeles Dodgers do in baseball, isn't it? I mean, they just got Snell. They have like 5 Hall of Famers as starting pitchers. Now, 1 or 2 will get hurt, but they buy.
Right.
And by the way, if they want to do that, that's their right. The rules of the sport allow them to do that in baseball. And football has a good salary cap, so there's decent balance, and basketball's in between.
You probably don't want to go deep into this, but what is this the story, the drama, the saga of the Rays? It's like they've gone back and forth and they've decided on St. Pete. The Storm probably changed a little bit of that deal. Now I just saw in the paper today they're in talks with Hillsborough County. It's like, what are we doing here?
I don't have any insight to add. I have no inside information. You know, I've said it, big league cities need big league baseball. I hope they stay here. I hope they figure out a solution. It's been surprising and disappointing to see everything that's gone on.
It has. It's a shame. Baseball is such an all-American fun sport. And then to your point about the arena having multiple uses and how there's like 150 dark nights where it's not being used.
Yeah.
Imagine if we do a new baseball stadium that could have concerts, events, maybe it's a transportation hub. I don't know, XYZ, let's be creative.
Yeah. And they're like hockey has 41 home games, baseball has 81. I mean, it's hard to sell tickets, but it's also activated a lot more nights a year. Stadiums aren't going to have nearly as many events as an arena will because it's too big. Although theirs isn't that big, so they could. They're going to be only like 30,000 people or so they could have events.
Well, they'll be at Steinbrenner now. I think they'll do well. It's kind of an interesting test to see how Tampa reacts to it. I think they'll fill it up.
Yeah, I think it's only 11,000 people. I think they'll fill it up. But I don't know if it's a test because it's not big enough to be a test.
Exactly.
If it were 23,000, then we'd see how it would do.
Right. So we talked about your exit from the Lightning. Let's talk about your exit and your decision kind of making process of moving on from Water Street and leaving that. So phase 1 gets completed. You're very prideful, happy with the job well done, and then how do you transition out of that?
Yeah, not an easy decision. But I was with Michael Larson of Cascade, and we had some honest discussions back and forth. You know, I want to see phase 2 done. I'd love to have been involved with it, but phase 1 took about 10 years. Phase 2 would take 10 years too. I just didn't want to commit 10 years, 10 of my whatever years I have left to have to put that much mental energy into it and be that actively involved in it. I just, I've said this, I'm an introvert. I just kind of like laying on the couch and watching a game or a TV series or something like that. And I pretended to be an extrovert here for the last 15 years, especially the first 10. And, I'm looking forward to being a little quieter again.
So you're not running for mayor? Is that what?
I don't think that's likely. Well, maybe governor now, because there was a rumor or there's a thought that DeSantis might go.
Now we're talking.
Yeah, go. No, I'm not going to become governor. No, I am not going to become a politician. That is not a low key light. That's the opposite. Yeah. Yes.
So you make a decision to leave, and I'm sure you're confident that the team moving forward will execute and continue on because you had such a high standard.
You're talking the hockey team?
No, I'm talking about Water Street.
Okay.
How we talked about all those exceptional things that were done way above and beyond.
Yeah.
Are you hopeful that that'll be continued?
It will be continued. You can't have this because it's so successful the way it is. And now they or whoever does it will be so much smart. We made so many mistakes, I can't tell you. And we threw a lot of money away and the returns were fine on it. But
is there any you could share? Some mistakes you made, some regrets with phase 1?
Well, there's a building we designed for over $10 million, and then we realized it was too expensive to build, and we couldn't build it, and we had to redesign it again. That's an example.
That's a pretty big mistake.
We have other mistakes too. I don't know if there's any bigger than that, but I'm sharing it with you.
Wow.
I didn't know anything about commercial real estate, and Cascade was learning also. Did some dumb things, and it was great hiring James. We should have also had two CEOs or a really strong business person at the same time because we were the business people and we didn't know. Now I'm a little smarter. I'm still not smart enough. I don't have 30 years experience. So we made some stupid mistakes along the way and never took our eye off the prize. We never sacrificed quality because then we were sunk if we ever did that. So I think one, as it continues to get built, it will maintain the same high quality. And two, the people doing it will learn so much. I mean, the hard thing is creating the critical mass in the district. That's there. It's easy now. You just build buildings and make them really nice and attractive for people. And the easy part is ahead.
Right. The catalyst has been created, right? Now
That's
you
correct.
just go off of that. I think what phase 1 also did was show what's possible for Daryl and for these other larger developments around the urban core. Like, wow, it works. You can spend extra money on the mature trees and all the stuff we talked about. It works. People enjoy it. And I think moving forward with all these developments, I have this rendering. This is a year or so old, but it shows a lot of the future developments in our urban core, and the scale of it's just unbelievable. You mentioned like Tampa 2070, right? What that would look like.
Yeah.
So when I look at that map, I think of how those developers must be inspired, right? They must look at what has been done at Water Street and go, ooh, we need to mark that. We need to find out how they did it. Were you contacted by, probably, I'm sure you've spoken to Daryl, but just other people that are so inspired by this new level of development that was never seen in Tampa?
Yeah, we've been contacted by other people, and we share some of the things we learned to make it easier for them. One thing I should throw out there, that we were fortunate that when we were building with very low interest rates. Material costs were high and labor costs were high, but they're not like they are now. So it is tougher to make commercial real estate jobs pencil right now, because interest rates are now, I wouldn't call them high, but they're a lot higher than they were. And costs are high and are very high and have gone up. So it's not easy. I mean, developers who are putting their own capital at risk and partners' capital, and I give them a lot of credit right now, because it's not, how much does it cost and what are the cash flows going to be like and what are the expenses? It's pretty easy to do the model, and it's not easy to make it have a really strong return.
It's such a different risk assessment if you tried to do Water Street today versus having started out in 2010.
Yes, I would agree with that. Probably if we were smart, though, we could still get the same returns by not having the dumb mistakes that I talked about.
Exactly.
I don't blame anybody for the dumb mistakes. We're learning, right?
Gosh, there's so much to learn in a project like that. Well, what's next for you in Tampa? I know you mentioned like you're trying to finish off the next few decades and have some fun and put your feet up. But what's next for you here locally?
This is my home. I love living here. Going across the street to hockey games, going across the street to restaurants, and lying on the couch watching TV series. I guess no, I'm going to stay involved. I'm going to stay active. As I said, I want to be an advisor, if nothing else, on the next phase of Water Street. I want our hockey team to do well. I've got new owners to actually enjoy it with for a while, for as long as I want. But beyond that, I don't know what's next. And that's where I'm at in life, is not knowing is what I want to know. I want to not know what's next.
I think this is an extremely exciting place to have that mentality in, because there is so much positive change and development and new projects coming our way. And if you want to be in a place that's energetic and exciting, it feels like we're on the ground floor of something super incredible, like from a city perspective, the Tampa 2070. It's like, there's a lot of good stuff to come. And
it's really everybody wants to be on like part of an underdog and part of the odds are against us and we still achieved. And that's what Tampa has done the last 15 years and longer. It goes back longer than that, but especially since, I don't want to say it since I've been here, that's coming out wrong.
Tom Brady.
There you go. He was the key.
Well, listen, Jeff, this was fantastic. Thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of it. And you were so open about everything, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's what I am. For good or for bad, I'm open about things.
I know you have an appointment to get to, so we'll get you out of here. Thank you again.
All right.
Jeff Vinik. All right.
Thank you.
All right. That's it. See you next week. Bye, everybody. Hey, guys, if you want to watch episodes just like this one, make sure to click right here to view the rest of our full episodes. And also make sure to subscribe by clicking right here. Thank you for watching.